Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Intesar-e-Wilayat Ch-7, address number 7, Wilaya of the Age. O Nasreen Wali-ul-Asr, it's being emphasized again and again that the sacred family had taught us that we must adopt such an ideal attitude towards our Wali-ul-Asr as they adopted toward their Wali-ul-Asr. This reality has been unfolded to the whole of the universe by those who sacrificed their lives in Karbala. Karbala is such an event that has shown the way to endless characters in momentary demonstrations. That is, lines of actions have been determined in the whole of the universe till the day of judgment. Now there is a greater need to adopt such lines of action because their practical application and consequences have already been demonstrated. Karbala is such a great incident that was witnessed by the whole of the universe for a few moments with a stern warning that it contains the lessons of the whole religion for the whole humanity. Friends, if you have ever thought about what is religion or true faith, and we contemplate properly, it will be proved that the whole of faith refers to our definite attitudes towards our Wali-ul-Asr. In other words, if we exclude the Imam of our time from our thinking and our character, then religion ceases to exist anymore, because Wali-ul-Asr himself is the true religion of a believer. As it is said, a faith that can be called a true religion in the eye of Allah Almighty is undoubtedly Islam. And Islam stands for safety and continuation of those attitudes of ours which are associated with our Wali-ul-Asr. Whosoever perceived the nusra of his Wali-ul-Asr, paid for the special rights possessed by Wali-ul-Asr, and maintained this pious practice, he is entitled to be a true Muslim. But those who could not owe allegiance to their Wali-ul-Asr could not secure their love and fidelity for their Imam, and finally lost their religion. Allah Almighty named this faith as Islam, a word the origin of which is safety. This safety, in fact, stands for maintaining and securing the faith in Imamat and its requirements. That's why it is ordained to recite Kalma after committing disobedience, because it results in breaking allegiance to our Wali-ul-Asr. Once allegiance is broken, it is imperative to recite the Rutbaq, owe allegiance to our Wali-ul-Asr, and condemn the enemies, because breaking allegiance to Wali-ul-Asr is similar to ignorance and kufr, as it is said, whosoever died without owing allegiance to his Wali-ul-Asr, he died in ignorance and kufr or infidelity. Friends, if you have ever thought that who is called a Muslim, it is said, a Muslim is the one from whose tongue and hands other Muslims feel secure. In other words, a man cannot be called a Muslim if his hands and tongues cause damage to other Muslims. That's why it is said that when a thief commits an act of stealing or does robbery or takes liquor, he no more remains a Muslim. If you have ever thought of the reason behind his not being a Muslim anymore after committing such strictly prohibited acts, as a man commits such an act of disobedience, he breaks his allegiance with his Wali-ul-Asr, and the act of breaking allegiance with his Wali-ul-Asr naturally brands him as non-Muslim. Definition of the faith of Islam can also be explained in simpler words. To live a life and to use one's belongings according to the design and desire of Wali-ul-Asr is in fact called the true faith of Islam. It is important to know that Wali-ul-Asr does not form his personal will or opinion, because he is the true representative of Allah's will. If we want to know the will of Allah Almighty, we cannot seek the will and pleasure of Allah 100% right from any other source except the Imam of the age. as every Quranic injunction needs to be explained, and an abundance of similes are found in the Holy Quran. Similarly, there are a series of hadiths that are doubtful and do not seem to be authentic ones. In fact, Masumeen or infallibles were bound to talk to their audience according to their level of understanding. As it is said, talk to the people according to their intellect. Whatever they talked about was not meant for all, but only for those who were present at the moment, and was meant only for their level of intelligence. So there seems to be contradictions in hadiths which in fact do not exist, but only in the understanding and intelligence of those listening to the hadiths. Besides, another reason behind this contradiction in hadiths is that Masumeen used to explain something spiritually, sometimes with a mystical reference, sometimes concerning Sharia, concerning jurisprudence, and sometimes concerning some other kind of knowledge. These different areas of knowledge have got their different terminologies which appear to be contradictory in different hadiths, but in fact no contradiction exists. In order to explain my viewpoint, I want to quote an example. I have defined Islam in different ways, sometimes concerning the mystics, sometimes concerning the masters of spirituality, and sometimes with some other reference. So, some friends may see contradictions in my statements, while this contradiction and difference is the difference in knowledge and not the difference of opinion. So, anyone who is familiar with these sciences understands that this is not a difference. Let me give you an example. Here is a word in Urdu called sabab. As I use this word by using different terminologies, you will find contradictions in the meaning of this very word. Literally, the word sabab means a cord that is usually tied to a bucket in the well. Terminologically, the word sabab refers to anything which becomes a means or a medium of something. In prosody, the word sabab refers to bilateral words. When both the letters are active or only one is active, they are known as mild or heavy ones. In Ilmul Zahafat, an area of knowledge or a term in grammar where a word is converted into different other words, sabab is called the subject of zahaf. Similarly, in the above mentioned areas of knowledge, this word has got its own terminological meanings. As a man uses the same word in different terminologies, contradiction seems to appear. But if a man is well versed with all the terminologies, he will not find out any contradiction in them. Similarly, there is no difference or contradiction in the holy sayings of Masumeen or infallibles. But we find a contradiction with our little or insufficient knowledge. In order to truly perceive their sacred sayings, we need to be scholars like them, which is impossible. Then the only way left for us just to fully understand the holy sayings is our Wali-ul-Asr. We are of the view that when a man disobeys his Wali-ul-Asr, he no more remains a Muslim. Friends, first of all, it is to be determined who is the first Wali-ul-Asr. No doubt, he is Allah Almighty. And who is his first Muslim? Obviously, the Emperor of the Prophet, because the Prophet himself said, I am the first of the Muslims. Now this rule or formula can be applied that whosoever disobeys his Wali-ul-Asr no more remains a Muslim. This rule or formula will be applied to the sacred family regarding its Wali-ul-Asr, that is Allah Almighty, though there is no possibility of it. And finally, the same universal formula will also be applied to us regarding our Wali-ul-Asr. Friends, someone may attempt to draw some meaning from first Muslim other than the above mentioned meaning. While drawing some self-created meaning, one must keep in mind that priority and acknowledgement doesn't mean the priority of time or age, but the priority of status. According to the infallibles, the first disobedience of Allah Almighty is ours. That is, obedience to Allah Almighty is our priority and secondary is yours. Obedience to Allah Almighty may be available to you through us, but not directly. This is the very big topic of mysticism that cannot be touched upon here. Friends, it is an undeniable reality that true faith is in fact the nusra of Wali-ul-Asr, because he wants the followers to practice the very behavior determined by him, which is no doubt based on goodness. On the other hand, the enemy wants to spread the notorious role like contamination, which is infected with evil intentions. In these critical situations, if someone preaches goodness or firmly sticks to it, he does the sacred job of nusra for his Wali-ul-Asr. Friends, I have already mentioned that there are more than 100 kinds and different aspects of nusra of the Imam of the era, out of which one is to live up to the will of the Imam of the era. This is the first and foremost degree of nusra, without which one can neither be branded as a true follower nor even a Muslim. The occurrence of nusra. Now the question arises of how the different processes of nusra can be practiced. Friends, when a person offers nusra to someone, the process of doing nusra goes through 6 stages. The first step is external stimulus. That is, first of all, a person gets the urge and encouragement of nusra from someone. The second step is internal stimulus. That is, when a person is persuaded by nusra from outside, the first of all, a motivation arises inside a person which creates the readiness of nusra in the human being. The third step is the inclination. That is, when the stimulus is born inside the human being, it leads to internal nusra. And finally, the inclination is created, or mental and emotional inclination towards nusra is produced. The fourth step is intention. That is, after inclination, the man intends nusra. But the intention of nusra sometimes turns into determination and sometimes fades away. As a result, men cannot offer nusra because 50% of intentions are not translated into determination. The fifth step is determination. That is, intention is followed by determination, which is a strong form of intention, and 98% of intentions turn into determination. The fact is that the first stimulus is empathy and the last stimulus is nusra. Now the process from compassion to nusra takes place inside man through millions of different automatic processes. Let me explain this with an example. A man surrounded by a few hooligans calling for help, and the hooligans ask him to give them 10,000 rupees. A lot of people will be standing there, and we will see that there will be many effects of calling for nusra on the audience there, like a man says, "Brother, run away, here he is going to be killed." He doesn't even feel internal stimulus. Another man standing there tries to stop the thugs verbally. Here he has felt an internal stimulus. Some people say, "Come on, man, we have so many people standing here to save this man." But no one goes with him. Here there is inclination and sympathy produced in them. One of the men standing there comes out and stops the thugs and says, "Leave them, I will pay." Here the intention is at work. A man goes ahead and stops the thugs. When he does not have it, he joins the fight. This man's intentions have acquired the status of determination, and reaching out to offer him nusra is the last step. Friends, we see the whole process starts from sympathy. In other words, the first thing that is produced in the heart is the soft corner for the person asking for nusra, which is the first step towards sympathy. In this initial process of sympathy, nobody offers sacrifice but feels the softness of heart for the oppressed. Principally speaking, if someone entertains sympathy for the oppressed in his heart, he will definitely feel the same intensity of hatred for the oppressor. Naturally, this equilibrium always maintains itself. It is one of the impossibilities that a person sympathizes with the oppressed but does not feel hatred for the oppressed. In other words, where there is tawalla or love, there will be tabarra or averseness. Friends, it is important to note that tawalla, tabarra or love and averseness are interrelated. Love indeed precedes averseness, but strangely enough, here averseness precedes love. We observe that Allah Almighty has placed La ilaha first, which is branded as tabarra or averseness, and put illallah afterward, which is in fact tawalla or love. And if we follow this natural sequence, we should say tabarra, tawalla or averseness and love instead of tawalla, tabarra or love and averseness, because tabarra or averseness got priority over tawalla or love. Here is another strange reality that tawalla or tabarra has been categorized as part of furu'id-din or branches of religion, while in fact it's the basic condition of imamat and must be included in the roots of religion. We see imamat is inevitable in our asul-e-din or roots of the religion, and wila or love of imam should be accompanied by it instead of being outside of it in furu'at or branches of religion. In fact, La ilaha is the negation of all the gods other than Allah Almighty, and illallah is the assertion of the oneness of Allah Almighty. If it would be right to place illallah in usul, roots of religion, and la ilaha in furu, branches of religion, in this way, belief would become like that it is imperative to keep faith in Allah, and to denounce gods is something which is called furui, relating to the branches of religion and not the roots of religion. This type of argumentation seems to prove that imam must be called an imam as it is a part of usul, the roots of religion. After this acknowledgement, we will be branded as true followers even if we do not acknowledge the wilayat or wilaya of imam. It is out of the question to claim the acknowledgement of the imam without his affection or love. To categorize the imam in usul, roots of religion, and his love in furu, branches of religion, is not a correct formula, because tawalla or love is the first and foremost condition for true faith in imamat. Both imamat and tawalla or love are identical to each other and therefore should be accompanied by each other. And tabarra is mandatory to wala or love. That is, if we love somebody, we must develop hatred and enmity for the enemy of the person we love. And there would be as much hatred as there would be love. During one of my lectures, I said to the audience that one who cannot develop enmity against someone cannot develop a friendship, because only a good enemy can be a good friend. Friends, if a person helps someone whenever and anywhere, his help is a sort of sacrifice. Help or nusra is another name for sacrifice, because the very sympathy which is produced is not helping but a willingness to help or nusra. And nusra starts exactly as a person sacrifices something. Realistically speaking, the sacrifice which is offered in the form of the help is divided into three kinds. Man has got three assets which are also called muta'ate salasa, that is, belongings, life, and honor. When a person loves or develops a friendship with someone, the intensity of his love or friendship can be divided into three levels which serve as a yardstick for measuring the intensity of his love. Suppose a person loves somebody and his love is subjected only to the financial assistance of his beloved one or to sacrifice his belongings for that person. His affiliation with his beloved one is termed as affection in the Arabic language. As he is sacrificing his trivial good for the person he loves, he would only be able to stand on the lowest pedestal of love as his affiliation is concerned. In other words, it is a state of affection after sympathy. In affection, a person helps somebody financially. In other words, if someone earns somebody's affiliation by spending or investing money, it is called affection. In Arabic, it is called talif-e-qalub. It means to produce a little bit of inclination in somebody's heart, either by encouraging or spending money or granting some valuable thing. As in the first period, the deadlines were set for spending money. It means to spend on the needy and the poor because they belong to the deprived section of life, or to spend on those who are amalin, that is, who are responsible for the expenses of administration. The next category coming after it is, that is, if it is required to win the sympathies of some people, investment should be made in those people. In the initial phase of Islam, the whole wealth of the benefactors of Islam was consumed in the compilation of hearts, talif-e-qalub, and most of the people took the cover sheet of Islam and maliciously threw it away after the demise of the Holy Prophet. Friends, you might have well understood that sympathies which are produced through wealth with consideration to avoid loss are called affection. It is the lowest degree of lover, rather it would be more appropriate not to call it love, because it is not a compilation of love at all. And the person who even avoids sacrificing his wealth is expelled from the sphere of compilation. Love. Friends, the second asset of a person is his life. If a person sacrifices his life for the person he loves and does not consider it a loss, this type of attachment is called love in Arabic language. And the lowest type of asset, that is wealth, is automatically included in the sacrifice of life. In other words, if a person sacrifices both his wealth and life in friendship, it is branded as love in the Arabic language. Allah Almighty says in the Holy Quran, Allah loves those who repent. Or likewise He says, Allah loves those who are pure. But at the same time, He also says, Allah does not like the disbelievers, the oppressors, and the aggressors. What is the context of all these sayings of Allah Almighty in the Holy Quran? It means that Allah does not like anyone to lose his life for the sake of some tyrant or non-believer. That's why Allah also says in this context that He does not love any tyrant, that is, He does not permit any believer to sacrifice his life for a non-believer. It is entirely a separate issue and has already been discussed many a time. Now let's move on to the next topic, mawaddat. That is, the intense love due to which a person is willing to sacrifice his life, wealth and honor is called mawaddat in the Arabic language. Friends, as I have already mentioned that man has got three assets, out of which the most precious asset is his honor and grace. If a person has gone to such a greater extent in his love that he may be willing even to sacrifice his honor and grace, his love is called mawaddat in the Arabic language. We may also say if a person has developed such an intense love for someone that he does not consider it a loss even to sacrifice his wealth, life, honor and grace, his love is called mawaddat. That's why Allah Almighty said in the Holy Quran, those who will believe and perform good deeds, very soon Allah Almighty will grant them a higher place called mawaddat. Likewise, when people show their willingness to pay the reward of prophethood, Allah Almighty said in the Holy Quran, say, all I want from you in return for my prophethood is to practice mawaddat with my princess. If a person has got some wealth more precious than mawaddat, Allah would have asked for that very wealth. But he did not do that and demanded only mawaddat. To sacrifice life and wealth, honor and grace for near and dear ones is in fact the reward for prophethood. If any one of the above mentioned asserts becomes dearer to man, conditions for mawaddat will not be fulfilled and such a person would be a defaulter of prophethood. It is an undeniable reality that wealth is to sacrifice for life and life is to sacrifice for honor and grace. And we have already proved that the most precious asset like honor and grace can be sacrificed for mawaddat, and more accurately, it can be said that mawaddat itself is faith or religion. Friends, here I want to say that there is a perceptible difference between love and mawaddat, and the basic difference lies in the fact that it is ordained to practice mawaddat because it is intentionally practiced, while love is something which we cannot practice intentionally. It happens unintentionally. The second visible difference is that love may develop with anyone else while a particular direction has been given for mawaddat. Apart from that given direction, mawaddat would be directionless and misleading. Furthermore, mawaddat has got two aspects: intentional mawaddat and unintentional mawaddat. If a person unwillingly offers the sacrifice of his wealth and life, honor and grace, while taking into consideration his duties and benevolence, it is called intentional mawaddat. In this category, he feels the responsibility of his duties and offers sacrifices, but not happily. It's called mawaddat, but learned people called it intentional mawaddat. If a person gets ready to sacrifice his wealth and life, grace and honor with much eagerness and fondness for his beloved Wali-ul-Asr, it is called unintentional mawaddat, and in the Arabic language, it is called deep and pure love or ishq. But there is a difference between ishq and mawaddat. If, according to the clarification given by religion and logic, a person offers sacrifice but without emotional attachment, it is called mawaddat. But to offer sacrifices while being fully emotionally attached and with utmost fondness is not mawaddat but is pure love or ishq. Another difference between mawaddat and pure and deep love or ishq is that we have to practice mawaddat willy-nilly, but we do not need to practice ishq because it is granted by Allah Almighty. Mawaddat is the beginning of deep love or ishq, while ishq is the peak of mawaddat. That's why we are ordained to practice mawaddat, not deep love or ishq, because the latter cannot be practiced, but it's granted by Allah Almighty. Friends, it is to be remembered that both mawaddat and deep love or ishq are either positive or negative. If a man is on the right path and develops his utmost fondness and emotional attachment with the sacred members of the divine family, then it's called pure and divine love for Allah Almighty or ishq-e-ilahi. And if we develop deep love or ishq with someone other than Allah Almighty, as we read in romantic stories or watch in feature films, then it's idol worship. That's why the poets brand their mundane or metaphorical beloveds as deities or idols. As a poet says in his verse, Sanam aajkal ke khuda ho gaye hain, mohabbat se dekha khafa ho gaye hain. Today's beloveds have become God. She gets angry as I see her with love. Our mawaddat with someone other than Allah makes us the accursed abdud, while with Wali-ul-Asr would make us divine man. Now it would be appropriate to find out examples of mawaddat and deep love or ishq from Dars-e Karbala so that we can understand their real meaning and application. The example of Rabia bin Khawt really explains the concept of intentional mawaddat. In that period, faith was not as much higher up to the required level. But whatever level of faith it was at that time, it was being practiced in its true spirit. That's why the faithfulness and divine spirit of the true followers of that era placed them on the highest pedestal. Friends, we see in that period the people did not possess a deeper perception of the divinity of the sacred family of the Holy Prophet. They simply thought that the members of the sacred family are the descendants of the Holy Prophet, true worshippers of Allah Almighty, Sayyid by caste, and have been recommended by the Holy Prophet. Furthermore, the people also thought that Allah has ordained to love the sacred members of the divine family. That's why the people considered it obligatory to love and assist them. Even at present, a poor and pious Sayyid fellow does enjoy the same status because common Muslims have the same faith and respect for a Sayyid fellow. Later, even in the time of the first three caliphs, the popularized ideology among the people was to swear allegiance to the person whom the majority of the Muslims agree to make caliph, and to obey him is in fact to obey Allah. And Hazrat Rabia bin Khawt al-Asadi was one of them. Hazrat Rabia bin Khawt al-Asadi al-Kufi. Friends, Hazrat Rabia bin Khawt al-Asadi was Hazrat Habib ibn Mazahir al-Asadi's cousin, because Hazrat Mazahir Asadi and Khawt Asadi were brothers. Hazrat Rabia also got the privilege of seeing the Holy Prophet in his boyhood. That's why some people also called him the companion of the Holy Prophet. According to the definition, whosoever ever saw the Holy Prophet is called the companion of the Holy Prophet. Ibn Askar, Hazrat Rabia bin Khawt Asadi, also assisted Amir Kainat because of the reason that most of the people owed their allegiance to Amir Kainat. Consequently, he was elected as the caliph, and Hazrat Rabia bin Khawt thought it to be his duty to conform to the caliph and assist and do his nusra. Hazrat Rabia bin Khawt remained in Kufa after the martyrdom of Amir Kainat and also owed allegiance to Amir Sham because he was also elected caliph by the people. As Amir Sham started taking allegiance to the accursed Yazid before his death, Hazrat Rabia bin Khawt did not owe his allegiance to the accursed Yazid, while thinking that allegiance to Yazid had not yet been widely accepted and practiced by people. In fact, Hazrat Rabia bin Khawt thought that he would owe his allegiance to the accursed Yazid, as all the Muslims finally elected Yazid as their caliph. After Amir Sham's damnation to hell, the allegiance of the accursed Yazid was publicly announced in Kufa, and Nu'man bin Bashir Ansari called all the rich and influential people to Kufa and ensured their allegiance to the accursed Yazid. Hazrat Rabia bin Khawt also owed his allegiance to the accursed one and stuck to it. At that time, Bani Umayyad projected a fabricated faith in the minds of common people that there is no other way to please Allah Almighty other than owing allegiance to the Caliph of the age. People at that time had also been brainwashed that a person loses his free will and right after allegiance, and he must carry out the orders given by the Caliph, however much controversial and objectionable they might be. That's why Muslim bin Aqba, the damned one, confessed at his last time that the whole of his life had been polluted with unforgivable sins, but he was going to produce himself before Allah with one deed for his deliverance. He further confessed that he had owed his allegiance to Yazid, the damned one, and as ordered by Yazid, he had ruined the holy Medina, humiliated and massacred the respectable companions of the Holy Prophet, and had got the daughters of the companions of the Holy Prophet raped. Even with this extreme sense of guilt, he still hoped that his allegiance to the Caliph was enough for him to earn deliverance from the wrath and punishment of Allah. This was widespread faith of people in caliphhood. By temperament, Hazrat Rabia bin Khawt Asadi was an impersonal ascetic and a simple fellow who was very fond of worship. He did not bother with the delicacies of faith and believed that worship is the only way to win the favor of Allah. That's why he was mostly fond worshipping on praying mat. When Hazrat Muslim came to Medina, Hazrat Rabi'a bin Khawt did not owe his allegiance to Hazrat Muslim. He thought it was against his faith to break his allegiance to Yazid. But practically he did not participate in the movement of Kufa and remained impartial. As Ibn Ziyad, the damned one, handed the mission of Karbala to Umar bin Saad, the damned one, he expressed his wish to win the favor in company of some of the companions of the Holy Prophet so that their evil design might be justified apparently in Islamic pattern. That's why Ibn Ziyad, the damned one, sent some of the companions of the Holy Prophet and also ordered Hazrat Rabi'a bin Khawt to accompany Saad and help him. When Hazrat Rabi'a bin Khawt, accompanied by Saad, the damned one, reached the land of Karbala Mualla, Saad prepared a person to go to Karim-e Karbala and inquire about his arrival and purpose in Karbala Mualla. That mean-natured fellow of Saad, the damned one, was not allowed even to see Karim-e Karbala. Then he prepared Hazrat Rabi'a bin Khawt to do the same task, and he at once got ready because he found hope of reconciliation in doing that job. As he reached the tent of Karim-e Karbala, he was hindered from getting in the tent by the guards. A messenger was sent into the tent to inform Karim-e Karbala that a messenger named Rabi'a bin Khawt came from the side of Ibn Saad, the damned one, and was seeking permission to come to him. All the Kufis sitting in the company of Karim-e Karbala were extremely surprised to hear that Rabi'a bin Khawt had accompanied Ibn Saad, the damned one, to Karbala. All the Kufis knew well that Rabi'a was very fond of worshipping Allah, and it was quite contrary to their expectations that he had accompanied Ibn Saad, the damned one. Karim-e Karbala inquired about Rabi'a's identity, and his companions' response was positive because they all knew Rabi'a very well and he was in their good books. Karim-e Karbala was informed that Rabi'a was the cousin of Habib ibn Mazahir. But it was to the utter surprise of everyone, how did he join the enemy being led by the damned one? Karim-e Karbala directed his companions to inquire about his arrival. When asked, he answered that he would like to produce himself before Karim-e Karbala. At that time, Hazrat Zuhair bin Khan noticed that Rabi'a had equipped himself with weapons. Hazrat Zuhair directed Rabi'a to disarm himself if he had come being a messenger of peace. Only then he would be able to produce himself before Karim-e Karbala. On hearing this, Hazrat Rabi'a disarmed himself immediately and was produced before Karim-e Karbala. As Rabi'a approached Karim-e Karbala, he paid his salutation, kissed both sacred hands and feet of Karim-e Karbala, and then asked humbly why he had come to Karbala. Karim-e Karbala replied that Kufi had sent written letters and invitations to him. Rabi'a very humbly and politely told the son of the Prophet that all those who wrote letters to him were enjoying a privileged position in the company of Ibn Ziyad, the damned one. Karim-e Karbala recited the holy verses and hadiths which explains and stress the rights of the sacred progenies of the Holy Prophet. As Karim-e Karbala asserted his privileged rights, Rabi'a perceived that Muaddad was asking for the sacrifice of his life for the sake of the emperor of the era because the Holy Prophet had ordained it. Karim-e Karbala asked Rabi'a to go and convey his message to Ibn Saad. Rabi'a replied that he was not fool enough to avoid heaven and opt for hell intentionally. He declared that he would prefer to sacrifice his life for the sake of Karim-e Karbala. After that, he remained in the company of Karim-e Karbala, who prayed to Allah for him. Finally, he was martyred on the battlefield of Karbala. We see that Rabi'a bin Khawt got ready for Nusra and was martyred just because of the emphasis on Muwaddat. examples of fully deep and divine love known as Ishq. Friends, in Karbala, some people sacrificed their lives due to their utterly deep love for Karbala, not merely because of emphasis on mawaddat. These sacred and devoted lovers were more in numbers, about whom some poet has beautifully said, Bana karda cha khush rasme bakha ko ghali dand, Khuda rahmat kanda, ashikane pak teenat ra. Hazrat Junada bin Haris Ansari was one of the divinely natured people. He belonged to that branch of the tribe, Bani Asad, which was called Sulaimani. That's why he was also called Sulaimani. He was the companion of the Holy Prophet, and he was over 100 years old on the battlefield of Karbala. When Kufa was settled, he preferred to stay in Kufa. It was also thought that he was settled in Kufa right from the reign of Amir-e-Kainat. Hazrat Junada bin Haris had also done his nusra for Amir-e-Kainat in the battle of Jamal, Safin and Naharawan. As Hazrat Amir Muslim came to Medina, Hazrat Junada bin Haris, like other companions of the Holy Prophet, also owed his allegiance to Amir-e-Kainat and induced a lot of people for the nusra of Amir Muslim. At the time Hazrat Muslim egressed, Hazrat Junada bin Haris was in the area called Bani Asad and found it hard to get out of that place. He was confined there because of his old age and the enmity of the people of that area. However, he availed a chance and planned to get out of Kufa so that he might do his nusra for Karbala. He managed to prepare some young men, and after increasing the number of his companions, he left Kufa in the darkness of night. Accompanied by companions, he participated in the karma of Karbala at Azib-ul-Hijanat, a barren area situated in the southwest of Kufa. Right at that time, Hazrat Hur had also reached there, and as he tried to arrest Hazrat Junada bin Haris, Karbala owned Hazrat Junada, saying that he was his companion. Karbala further said to Hazrat Hur that if he tried to arrest Hazrat Junada bin Haris, he will be protected by him. On hearing this, Hazrat Hur was restrained from arresting Hazrat Junada bin Haris and his companions. On the day of Ashura, Hazrat Junada bin Haris reiterated his commitment to sacrifice his life for his Wali-ul-Asr, while asking for martyrdom so that he might be honored before the Holy Prophet. He further requested that he might be granted permission without being considered an old man, as he was not less than his young soldiers in spirit and devotion. Karbala observed his drooped stature, white beard littered with trickling tears, stick in his shivering hands, and a handkerchief tied on his eyebrows. This style attracted Karbala as much as he embraced him, saying that he was old and was exempted from jihad according to the laws of Sharia. Further, he asked Hazrat Junada to pray for the fulfillment of that sacred goal. On hearing this, Hazrat Junada fell on the feet of Karbala, imploring that he might not be ashamed before the Queen of the universe by avoiding the opportunity to offer nusra for his Wali-ul-Asr. He further said that he could not afford to be ashamed of his negligence before his sacred forefathers. He continued by saying that his old age should not be considered a hurdle, as he was determined to damn many of his opponents to hell. Only then his martyrdom would be justified in the eye of the Holy Prophet. As permission was granted to him by Karbala, he himself directed Umar bin Khalid Sedawi to equip Hazrat Junada with weapons for the battle. Hazrat Junada's slave named Saad took the weapons, and thus Hazrat Junada was prepared for the battle. When Hazrat Junada was about to leave, Karbala ordered a slave, Saad, to accompany his master to the battlefield. Not only that, but he also directed Umar bin Sedawi and Majma bin Abdullah Aizi to assist Hazrat Junada after being attacked collectively by the enemies, because his old age deserved that assistance. It was cited by Intesar-e-Wilayat, name of a book, that on the battlefield, Hazrat Junada recited rhapsodical poetry, challenged many young men on the battlefield, and killed 16 skilled fighters despite his old age. As Hazrat Junada demonstrated his fighting spirit on the battlefield of Karbala so bravely, the Syrian army attacked him collectively. On seeing this, his slave Saad raised the slogan, Allahu Akbar, Allah is great. Both Umro ibn Khalid Sedawi and Majma bin Abdullah rushed to the battlefield to save Hazrat Junada. All the four sabred so courageously that all the most renowned warriors in the Syrian army were utterly surprised. As Ibn Sa'd, the damned one, noticed the retreat of the Syrian army, he sent a fresh army squad that encircled these four warriors who were thirsty and deadly injured. As Karbala noticed this critical situation, he asked the Emperor of Fidelity to do the nusra of the companions of the Holy Prophet. On hearing the orders, the Emperor of Fidelity pounced upon the Syrian army, damning the Syrian soldiers to hell. Terrified by the sudden assault of the Emperor of Fidelity, cowardly Syrian soldiers fled the battlefield, leaving their dead bodies behind them. After saving his life, the Emperor of Fidelity, Maula Ghazi Abbas, took Hazrat Junada back, whose whole body was bleeding badly. But one can observe visibly the dawn of a fresh and honored morning with the addition of glory and awfulness on his face. Now Karbala directed them to take him to his tent. On hearing this, Hazrat Junada looked in amazement and asked Karbala if his dead body had reached there, that he was giving orders to take him to the tent. He said that his nusra could never be complete until or unless he was alive. How could he be declared exempted from offering nusra until he had got his head above his shoulders? Again Hazrat Junada asked for permission to combat the enemies, and Karbala granted him and his companions permission to go to the battlefield. All these valiant warriors bravely sacrificed those lives for the sake of Karbala. When Karbala took Hazrat Junada's head in his lap, as he was breathing his last, Hazrat Junada kissed Karbala's forehead and said that he was greatly indebted to him, as he had provided him an opportunity to justify himself before his maternal grandfather. This is the very pure love due to which these pure lovers are saluted in Ziyarat-e-Nahya by the emperor of the era, and the emperor of the age name them individually and greet them in Ziyarat-e-Nahya. Let's pray that the unfulfilled desires of the sacred hearts of the martyrs might be fulfilled, and their avenger might egress soon. On having seen the sacred home delighted and pleased once again, these faithful companions of Karbala might be felicitous to such a greater extent that they would forever forget their griefs and sorrows. Ameen, Ya Rabbul Alameen. Alhamdulillah wa shukr sahib zaman, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif.